Hello Raj,
Yeah, hello.
how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
So in this batch we have about 93
Okay.
registered participants and
Mm-hmm.
typically around 45 joinees.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just put in the chat that people should join in. We are starting. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
There's no light on your face,
Yes, I think this is something actually I'm not at home, and that's the reason. Uh,
but your
mm,
face is looking very dark. I mean, just
yes, yes, I'm
putting
getting my
light.
point.
Yeah, just
I'm
see if
getting.
you can fix it. We have some
Yeah, yeah,
time. We have
yeah,
five
yeah,
minutes. Yeah.
yeah. Let me just try to put another light.
Yes. Yeah, I have to go to group. I have to go to WhatsApp.
I think now.
One second.
I think now this is good.
Better,
Hmm.
slightly better. Small.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I
Cross.
getting. It will looks like I'm in night side. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's slightly better. I think
Yeah.
is this the best you can do?
Yes, I think this is the best I can do. Let me just.
This is definitely better. No. Yeah. Anyway,
So
you'll
is
be
it a
sure.
mandatory to open camera? Is it mandatory to
Yeah,
put?
yeah, 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 yeah. For the trainers at least, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
We'll just give it a couple of minutes. I think people are just joining in.
Okay. Fine. Yeah.
And you can
Share my screen.
yeah, not just now, just wait. I just will explain at 6 o'clock. I'll just explain the process for assessment. Then
Okay.
afterwards. Yeah. It's reassuring for the people who are joining to see that, people are there to train the
Yes. Yes.
trainers.
Yes. You're right. You're right. Just verify how the camera looks. Is it, yeah, I think this is lovely.
हेलो, हाँ जी अमन, आप कॉल कर रहे थे?
हाँ, कल टीम लंच है आपका, वेज है नॉन वेज है?
कल टीम लंच है।
हाँ,
मैं तो
छुट्टी को क्या?
नहीं नहीं, लंच के लिए तो मैं छुट्टी से भी आ जाऊंगी।
अच्छा,
छुट्टी नहीं है। वेज, मैं वेज हूँ।
वेज हो? ठीक है।
क्या किस व्हाट्स द ओकेजन?
टीम लंच?
नहीं नहीं, मतलब are we celebrating something or what?
नहीं बहुत टाइम से नहीं हुआ।
अच्छा सर आ जाएंगे कल?
हाँ
ओके ठीक है, आई एम वेज वेज।
ठीक है।
ठीक है।
तो सेक्टर 90 में है 12:30 बजे।
ओ मैं तो ऑफिस में आऊंगी कल, आप ऑफिस आओगे?
हाँ तो
यस।
हाँ ऑफिस आऊंगा तो यहीं से जाएंगे, मैं भी यहीं से जाऊंगा।
ठीक है।
हाँ
Right. So I'll hello everyone. Welcome to this day four of our AICT sponsored NASCOM organized online FTP. And I will just explain. I'll share my screen so that you can see what I want to explain to you. Uh, just sharing my screen. I'll not take much time. There's a step-by-step guide for the FDP participants. Okay, you just log into the Future Skills Prime platform. This is the URL. Click on login. Your username is what is you registered on AICT Atal portal, and password is the same. And then you can reset it. Then you go to groups. Either you can refresh or you can search for AICT in the group, so you will get your group, which is this AICT Atal Online FDP DAF STEM. Then you can complete the course, and after you complete the course, you can click on assessment. So when you click on assessment, this is the assessment that you will see. You just launch it, and then you need to have a stable internet connection, webcam access, etc. It's uh, you need to have a webcam, and you can take it late till by Sunday, no problem. You can take it by Sunday because on Monday or Tuesday we'll be taking out this course. You need to score 70% to get an Atal certificate, and if you there's only one chance. So please make sure that you listen attentively in the classes and you can complete the course also. So I think that's about it. I'll stop sharing now. And I'll hand it over to you, Raj, for your session. I request you to please introduce yourself and then take the session forward.
Okay, hello everyone. Very good evening, all of you. Right, this is Raj. Right, now today we will be talking about data analysis. What is data? How to analyze the data? What are the different storage we have about the data? Right, and so actually, I have this over more than 10 plus years of experience, right, as a trainer. Basically, I give knowledge about data science, data analytics, machine learning, deep learning, AI, agentic AI, all this stuff, right? So today we'll be discussing about mostly how to do data analysis, right? Let me just share my screen. Give me a minute. Mm, yeah. So again, I guess all of you can see my screen, right? And yeah, wait a minute. Now, again, everyone, uh, very good evening. Now, let's get started, right? Now, we will talk about data analysis and all those stuff, right? And give me a minute. So, first, we'll be discussing about what is data, right? So, basically, we'll be discussing about some strategic guide to do data analysis, right? And we'll be also talking about what are the data analysis concepts is, right? What are the tools we have for the data analysis, right? Now, let me just put this on. Again, if you have any query, you can directly open up your mic and then you can directly ask me. You can also raise your hand. You can also ask any query from the chat, right? So I will be available from chat. I'm open for the mic as well, right? You can have direct talk. Let's say that if you have any query, you just have to stop me, open up your mic, stop me, and then you can ask me directly over there only, right? Or otherwise you can also chat, right? So now let's get started. So now first we'll be talking about data. So what is data? Basically the data word is coming from like whatever the data we are creating, but essentially this data term was become very famous when we started discussing about big data, and this has happened around 2017 or 2016, right? Where people have started talking about what is big data, right? Now the big data essentially is all about it's a data in a huge amount. We are talking about complex data. So the big data has four verticals. One is volume, velocity, variety, and veracity. So volume means we are talking about huge amount of data, right? And velocity means at what speed we are creating the data, right? Variety refers to as what are the different form of the data we have, like whether we have the structured data, whether we have unstructured data, whether we have semi-structured data, right? And veracity means the accuracy and the reliability of the data. So right now, when we do not store the data properly, when we do not store the data in a management way, you cannot use that data. It will be like so it is like you have a huge amount of storage, right? And then you are storing those informations, but you are not maintaining it. So the record is not there. If the record is not there, it will be kind of a huge pile of garbage, right? So we live in the era of big data, right? And when we talk about the big data, we have to handle all these four things, right? And let me know if you have any query, right? Now the question comes, why does big data even matters? So big data matters because when we create a huge amount of data, now from those data, we try to understand the pattern and the trend of future or maybe the past as well, right? And let's say that you are a finance company, right? Or you are a healthcare company, or you are a banking, right? Now you want to make sense of whatever the data you have generated or you have stored so far. Now for that, you need to analyze it. You need to understand what are the basics pattern we have, right? And for that, you have to do the data analysis, right? So now all this thing is possible if we store a huge amount of data, right? Now there are various sectors the people uses, like we can improve the healthcare. Let's say that like again we can talk about any disease, right? So what happens is if some disease, or let's say that if the new medicine is being kind of designed, right? That new medicine is being designed because of the certain problems, and those certain problems has coming basically they come from the records of the hospitals, right? So we even create a new drug, we even try to discover the pattern of the disease by analyzing the data, right? We understand the customers in the retail as well. Whereas we try to understand the purchasing behavior of the people, right? Consider a situation that, let's say that we have a new festival coming up, maybe a Holi in the next 2 months. Now, the people already know that between this specific season, there will be the certain product needed, right? And because of that, and that happens, that coming from the knowledge. But let's say that if you want to understand a certain event in your business, then to understand certain event in your business, you need to analyze the huge pile of data. You need to analyze the maybe past 10 years of the data, right? So you can understand, you can make the decision that what kind of purchase will happen in the next month or the next 2 months, right? We can even try to detect the fraud. When you talk about the banking, consider a situation that I'm a person, since then, let's say that I have opened my bank account maybe in 2010 back then. Now, from 2010 to till now, I've been doing the banking in the India only. But suddenly, if the transaction is happening from my bank, right, in a new country, maybe in a Dubai, maybe in the USA, maybe in the New Zealand, now that signals as a fraudulent or a default transactions, right? So the banking will try to take the permission from you that this transaction looks unusual to them, right? So this way we can even secure and protect the systems. So that happens, that is being taken because of analyzing the big data, right? Now, to understand the big data, first we have to understand the data. Now, to understand the data, I would say the data has a two flavor, right? So one is quantitative data and the other one is qualitative data. Now, when we talk about quantitative data, basically these kind of data can be measured by the numbers, like the sales figure, like this revenue, website visit, click, and everything, right? How many number of followers you have, even this is a quantitative data, right? So the data can be count. It has a numerical form, that is quantitative data. And the second type of data is qualitative data, which is a subjective qualitative. So qualitative data is a subjective, right? like like let's say that if the new movie is coming up and now people gives review to those new movie, and now you want to know what are the sentiment of those, or like what are the sentiment of the people have about that specific movie. Now that happens when you have to when you will analyze the text, when you will analyze the comment. Now these kind of analysis is qualitative data, right? So we have a two flavor of data. One is numerical and the other one is subjective. Now, there are three level of analytical insights we have. So how do we analyze these data? So for this, we have a three level of analytical insight. First is descriptive, second one is diagnostic, and the third one is predictive. Now, this descriptive analysis is all about understanding the data about the past. So basically we try to summarize the specific event happened, then why that. So let's say that I want to know what is the average sales of this month. Now this kind of average, like this kind of analysis is called a descriptive analysis, right? Now the next type of analysis is diagnostic analysis, where we go a deep inside the analysis and try to identify the root cause of that event. That means, let's say that I have a shop, right? Now, in this month, my total sale was 1600. Now I want to know, so now I will try to analyze what was the total sale in the earlier month, and then basically we will try to go to the past 12 month, and now we will understand if the sales has been increased in this month, then why the sales has been increased, and if the sales has been decreased, then why the sales will be then why the sales has been decreased. This is called diagnostic analysis, right? Where we try to understand why the specific pattern is being shown, right? And then the next type of analysis is called predictive analysis, where we use the historical data and now we try to understand what will happen in the future. Like what kind of sales this business will generate in the next future. That kind of analysis is called predictive analysis. So we have three kind: descriptive, diagnostic, and predictive, right? Now, to do all these type of analysis, we have some techniques. Those are called analytical techniques, right? Now, to perform diagnostic, descriptive, and predictive, these are the few tools we have. Like we have the A/B testing, we have the regression analysis, we have the data mining, we have this cluster analysis, time series, and natural language processing. Now these are the few tools we have. With the help of these tools, we can do even a descriptive analytics, we can do the diagnostic analysis, we can even do the predictive analytics, right? And not only these tools, we have the multiple tool as well, right? If you'll go deeper, but these are the few essential tools that people use to do the data analysis for their businesses, right? Now we'll talk about each tools. So when we talk about this understanding the relationship and the patterns, when you have to understand, that means when you have to understand like a descriptive analysis, or you have to understand why this pattern is happening, why this thing is happening, then for that we have these three tools like A/B testing, regression analysis, and data mining. Now, what is A/B testing? So A/B testing is all about comparing the two group of event. Let's consider as an example, you are running a campaign, maybe an ad campaign for your business. Now you will kind of share maybe into the market, right? You will show two or three kind of ads. Now you will see that how many visitors have interacted on the first ad, how many visitors have interacted on the second ad, and so on. So here we are trying to compare the event happened or interaction of a client or interaction of a people, right, to a specific ad. This is kind of A/B testing, right? Now the another type of analysis is this regression analysis. Now, this regression analysis is a statistical method to understand the relationship between two variables, right? So basically, let's say that if you want to understand, right, if I'll spend a specific amount on the specific ad, how much sales will be, right? So we want to understand the sales pattern, how many we can get a sales if this ad, like if in this ad we will spend a specific amount. Now here we have to understand the relationship between the amount ad and the sales. Now this kind of analysis is called regression analysis. Then the third analysis is data mining, where we try to understand the pattern from the large amount of data. Okay, we have a questions. Okay, uh, two location, yeah, impact of one variable on the second or the multiple variable. Okay, so again, I did not understood, but let's say that if you are saying impact of one variable on second or multiple variables. E- Yes, yes, these are the examples we have, right? So where we try to understand if the two variable is impacting on, like again, as an example, let's say that we have the 10 columns, right? And now out of those 9 column, we want to understand. So those 9 column, using those 9 column, we just want to understand what will be the value on the 10th columns. This is kind of analysis is called regression analysis, right? Now we have one uncover hidden value. Yes. So yeah, data mining is all about we try to understand and patterns of a huge and the big data, right? Now the primary goal of the data mining is to discover hidden patterns, right? And try to understand the relationship in a data to understand the customer behavior, how the customer is interacting. So these are the core technique we have. Right, again, if you have any query, please do ask me, right? You can directly open up the chat, right? You can directly open up the mic and then you can ask, right? Then these three technique, like the advanced technique, we have cluster analysis, time series analysis, and NLP, natural language processing. Now, the cluster analysis is a totally different technique, right? Where we try to group the data that are similar to each other. So let's say that we have the huge amount of data, right? And now you want to understand who is the premium customer, who is the less premium customer. Now, if you want to segregate those two things, those two type of customer, that you can do using clustering analysis, right? Now we have the time series analysis where we try to understand, or where we try to analyze the data collected over a specific time period, right? And now we want to understand what will be the output in the next maybe 10 month, or like a 10 days, right? So here the important thing is about the time series, the important thing is we are talking about time based data. That means data was collected as a time based, right? So what was the sales at today, what were the sales tomorrow, what will be the sales the next day, right? So we are collecting the this informations, right, at a specific time period. And using this time series analysis, you can identify the trend, you can identify the cycle of the sales, seasonals, like maybe because of some certain events the maybe this sales has been decreased, or sales has been increased, right? These kind of thing you can understand with the help of time series analysis, right? Then we have the natural language processing. Now, using this technique, you can understand the text data. Let's say that again, we'll be talking about this movie review. Now you want to understand what people are talking about that movie. Now, for that, you can analyze the text data, and to analyze the text data, we have a sophisticated technique, or I would say that it's a separate field of study that is called natural language processing, right? Now, so these are the different technique we have which will help you to kind of analyze the data. So first, what we have done, first we have discussed about the big data. How do we, like, what are the different segment, or like dimensions of the data. Then we did discussed about how big data can be helpful. Then we have discussed about the two type of data. Then we did discussed about what are the different techniques we have to analyze the data, right? And then we did discussed about to kind of use those techniques, right? So these are the different tools we have. And then we have discussed about these 6 tools, right? So we have a 5-step things, or a 5-step path. First, we'll have the question. So first we'll create a question or ask a questions, right? First we'll define the business problems. Once we have a business problem, or once we have the business questions, we'll collect the data. We'll try to collect whether a quantitative data or whether a qualitative data based on what questions we have. After that, we'll clean it. So cleaning comes basically because when we collect the data, right, your data will be in a totally different form, right? So it will not be in the usable form. So we'll try to make the data in the usable form, where we'll try to kind of clean the different type of error. After that, we will analyze the data, right? Now to analyze the data, we use a different techniques or a different tools, right? Now to apply a different technique, we'll have a different tools. And after we apply the tools and techniques, right, we'll try to share the results. So we have total 5-step process for this. Any query we have, all of you? You can even go like do the reactions, right? So now, how do we share the result? The question comes. Now to share the results, right? We generally, as a human beings, we try to see the information in the form of charts and graph. Let's say that if someone is showing you the result in the form of text or the table, now the table might not be very much interpretable to you, right? But the graph and the chart will be very much interpretables, right? So for that, we use a different tool. So we have a tools called Tableau. We have the tools called Power BI. These are the two premium tools that people use, right, to create charts and graph. Basically, we call this as an dashboards, right? So to create interactive dashboards, right? Now, this dashboard will help you to kind of show your data, right, in a very interpretable forms, right, where you can see the trends of your business at one go, where you can see the kind of highest sell in the specific month, right? You can even sell you can even see what are the highest sell in the specific region as well, right? So based on what data you have, right, you can utilize the data to create a charts and graph, right? So this is the final step we have in the tool for the data analysis. Now the modern toolkits. So the modern toolkits, like we also have some modern toolkits, right? So again, we know that no single tool can do anything, right? Instead of that, we have this multiple tool to solve our multiple purpose, right? Like we have the foundational framework, we have the real-time engine, we have specialized database, we have the analytical platforms. So for every task, we have a different kind of tools. First, we'll talk about fundamental framework. So these fundamentals, so first, when we take the data, first we want to store and process the data. Now storing and processing the data at a maybe in a small device, maybe in a laptop, right? Or maybe even a dedicated database, a small database, that is not efficient, right? Because organization will have the huge GBs of informations, huge terabyte of informations. Now to process those huge terabyte of informations, we need to have a proper system which can handle those systems. Now one of the system is called Hadoop, Apache Hadoop. This is an open source framework, right, to handle a big data storing solutions, like storing and processing solutions, right? So basically, it allow you to process large data, right, by dividing tasks across the multiple computers. So basically, it has a dedicated distributed data storage systems where we store the data at a multiple location, right? So we are not storing the information in just one system, we are storing this information at a multiple locations, right? Then we have the scalable architecture mechanism in this Hadoop systems where you can easily add a new node or where you can easily remove the new node. Let's say that if your data storing is becoming high and high, so you can add a multiple system to that specific architecture, right? And then we have the fault tolerance system in this. Basically, this means if any machines get failed, right, so the copy of that data will be stored in a different node, so your data will not be lost. So this system is specifically designed to store and process the data, right? Now the next part comes as, if you need to, like if you need a speed, sometimes we want to process the data in a real time. So that means, let's say that if someone is kind of giving the comment, now that comment will be easily accessible in instantly, right? So that is the basically that is happening because of the real time processing, right? Maybe let's talk about a stock price informations, right? You want that whenever a stock price will go down and up, that price should reflect instantly, right? Now that type of information is being, basically that type of information update is called real time update, and for that we have the multiple system as well, and these two system is very known, like Apache Storm and Apache Flink. Apache Storm is a distributed fault tolerant system for the real time computations, right? So that means if you want to process the data at a very high speed in the real time, then you should use the Apache Storm, right? Maybe in the stock price. right? Then we have this Apache Flink. This is a low latency streaming process. Again, just now I have said, let's say that if someone is kind of giving a comment or liking any systems, that information should instantly reflect, right? Maybe let's talk about a LinkedIn. If someone is posting a blog, that blog should be reflected to each and every person's. It should be reflected to each and every a kind of users. Now, those kind of informations can be processed using Apache Flink, a low latency streaming processing, right? Now, sometimes we will not always work on the tables or a tabular data, right? We want to work on a different kind of data. So mostly this database was designed to work to kind of work with the tabular data. But whatever the example that I had given you, it was mostly unstructured data, like processing the text, processing the graph, processing the node, processing the image. These kind of data is called unstructured data, like NoSQL data, right? Now for that, we also have the different database like Apache Cassandra and CouchDB. Now this Apache Cassandra is a highly scalable database. It is perfect for applications that cannot afford to lose data, right? So basically these type of database will be highly available, right? And achieved by replicating data across multiple centers. Then we have the CouchDB, which is a reliable database that store information in a JSON format, right? So every database have their own solution. So every database is kind of trying to solve their or trying to solve a specific kind of solutions. It depends on what kind of business you have or what type of implementations of your data need, and based on that you can use the multiple database, right? And now we also have the systems which provide end-to-end solution. These are the kind of enterprise like the Joho and we have this Cloudera. We also have AWS. We also have Azure, right? These are the system which gives you the end-to-end solution. You do not have to do anything. So Joho is a self-service business intelligent platforms, right? It has drag and drop type of interface. So if you want to kind of do anything, just drag and drop, or it will ask some question. Based on that, you have to, like, based on your input, it will try to create a system for you. You do not have to do any engineering stuff. Then we have the Cloudera, which is secure and scalable, right? And these kind of system will help you with the complex big data workflow, right? Let's say that if your organization have stored the information at a multiple services, maybe AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, right? These are the cloud architecture, and if you want to connect all three cloud architecture, then the Cloudera might help you, right? So these are the end-to-end solutions we have. Let me know, all of you, if you have any query. So now we have been talking about how to process data, how to store data, how to build what are this different type of data we have, right? Now we'll be talking about how do we transform the data, right, into a goal. That means how do we make sense of the data? How do we use those data? Right? How do we convert our data into the actionable insights? Now again, we have already discussed about what the data is. It's all about fact, figures, table, graph, images, text, everything is data, right? So that means we all are surrounded by the data. That means whether you are giving a call to someone, whether you are trying to kind of do some WhatsApp chat, whether you are using any social media platform, whether you are doing any bank transactions, right? Everything is data, right? And if you do not manage those data, it will behave, it is nothing but a noise, right? A garbage. If you do not manage it, or if you don't know how to store and how to manage those data, right? If you'll just put those data directly, it will behave like a garbage, right? Now to properly manage this data, we have techniques called data mining. Now this data mining is all about discovering the meaningful patterns from the data, and it is sometimes we also call a knowledge discovery, or like knowledge discovery from the data, right? And data mining and KDD, which is knowledge discovery from data, right, both comes side by side. Like that means people use both terms for this, right? So our main goal is to transform a simple raw data into the meaningful insights. This is what our main goal is, right? Let me know, all of you, if you have any query. Now, so how do we use data mining, or what are the different processes we have for the data mining or KDD techniques? So these are the few techniques, or these are the few patterns that we follow. First, we collect the data or collect the relevant data. Then we process the data. That means processing comes under, like when you talk about processing, this means cleaning the data, right? Or like collecting only the useful data, right? Those are the pre-processing steps. After the pre-processing, we apply the techniques. That means we use a different technique, different mathematical knowledge to make sense of those data. After we use a different technique which help you to find the pattern in your data, we try to evaluate that patterns, right? Trying to make sense of that data, that is called evaluating the patterns or evaluating the data. Then the next step is, or the last step is, the deployment, right? Where we deploy our data or whatever the pattern that you have got into a meaningful format. Let's say that you have used the mathematics to make sense of the data. So the output, like over here, you are using a, like in the applying technique. Let's say that if you are using a machine learning technique, right? Now the output you will get in the form of numbers. Now evaluating patterns, basically you try to understand how the pattern looks like, but you cannot just directly push a kind of numerical data into the deployment. You have to convert those data into a chart and graph. That is what the deployment part is. So these are the different steps we have to do the knowledge discovery from the data, right? Now, what are the different data miner toolkit? That means to understand or analyze the data, what are the different techniques we have for this? So again, based on situation and based on problems, we have a different machine learning algorithms, or we have a different statistical algorithms. Like let's say that if you want to sort the data into a groups, for that we use a classifications. Let's say that if you want to discover a new group out of data, then for that we use a clusterings. Let's consider that if you want to know what are the different, or like what are the different product have their relationship. Let's say that, for example, consider that if you are trying to, like if you want to buy a phone, there is a higher chance that nowadays people do not, like this company do not gives you a kind of charging adapter. So there is higher chance that you will also buy the charging adapter, right? Company is not giving you the good case for the phone. There is a higher chance that you will buy a good case for that phone. That is called finding a relationship. This technique, like you can use the associations, right, to find these patterns. Then we have the predictions, where we try to predict the future value, right? So these are the few machine learning algorithm we have, right, which will help you to kind of understand the different behavior of the data, right? So again, this classification means we try to sort a data into a known groups. So basically here, this is also, we use a machine learning technique to do the classifications, where we try to build models that sort the data into a predefined category, right? And as an example, I would say that we have this in, like we have this IDStic systems like intrusions detection systems, right? Consider that this kind of system might help you to understand if the traffic is normal or suspicious. Maybe on a highway, if you see a big traffic, then there is a higher chance that there was an accident that has happened at that specific area, and because of that we have this high traffic, right? It could be this any reasons, right? And the other technique is clusterings. Now with the help of clustering, we try to group, or let's say that we have a huge pile of data and now you want to group the similar kind of data into a similar groups, or you want to divide the data based on some similarity, then we use a clustering technique over here, right? We group the similar data point without predefined category. We do not know whether we have a group or not, but we again try to do that using a clustering techniques. Like, again, a bank will try to analyze whether, based on the kind of based on this transaction value, we'll try to analyze whether this person is worth giving loan or not, right? So basically it try to find the premium or try to target the premium customers. So these are the few techniques that people use in their own businesses, right? Now we have the another technique for finding connections, like association and predictions. Again, as an example, let's say that if you are going to the shopping cart or like shopping mall, and if you are buying a bread, there is a higher chance that you will buy a butter or a milk or any kind of dairy product. So you will often see that bread and butter will kept close together, right? So these are the few techniques. So again, people like mostly this supermarket, right, try to kept the product at a specific sequence so that people might find the product easily, right? Then we have this prediction technique where we try to build a model, right, and based on that model we'll try to understand, or we will try to predict the future, right? So yeah, so these are the few techniques we have. Now we'll be talk again. Let me know if you have any query, all of you. Please, you can do ask in a chat, or you can directly open up the mic, right? Now the next topic is how do we do data mining. So again, we have discussed this. These were the data mining, right? Now we will be talking about how the different industry is using the data mining. So let's say that when we talk about finance industry, right? Now the challenge is we try to identify and block the fraud transaction in the real time to prevent the loss. Now for that we use the anomaly detection systems. Now anomaly detection system is again a different machine learning techniques which comes under a data mining segment, right? Where we try to understand the transaction which is deviated from the normal transactions behavior. Again, I had given this example, like purchase happen in a new country at a very different location or unusual locations. So maybe a kind of hacker, I'll say that this intruder might have got your password or like bank account details, and they are trying to do transactions, right? So these are the few techniques we have where so this anomaly detection technique this finance company uses to reduce the financial loss, right? And it also uses this to kind of enhance the security. Now the other industry like the insurance, right? So the challenge for the insurance company is we try to market a new loan, right, efficiently, avoiding the waste resources. Basically we are trying to kind of sell a loan to a person's, right? Now how they will kind of identify that whether this person is going to buy the loan or not. For that they analyze the customer transaction data and try to understand, right, whether if this customer is will be interested in the loan or not. right? Now the other industries like a retail and e-commerce, right? Now, again, this retail uses this technique called market basket analysis, which is a type of association rule technique as well, right? We have already discussed about that, right? So basically, this retail industry try to understand how a product should be kept, right? So that they can increase the sales. So again, it always happens that you go to the shopping mall, right, to buy a specific product, but you end up buying a two or three more product, right? Maybe if you are going to a big bazaar, right, and then you had a list that you are going to buy these things, but after you enter this big bazaar, you will see a lot of things, and then by looking at that you will understand that we also want to buy, or we also had to buy this specific product. So you, let's say that you had a budget of 2000 but you end up spending a 3000, right? Now this thing is possible because of market basket analysis. So basically we try to analyze how to increase the promotion, how to increase the sales, how to improve the store layout and all those stuff. Then the other example is we have this Amazon, right? Where we so the challenge of this Amazon is we try to create a unique and personalized shopping experience, right? We always try to kind of do shopping from Amazon or a Flipkart, right? Now these kind of online retail shops or like enterprises, they uses a data on a huge amount, right, and try to understand the purchasing behavior of the customer, right, and based on that it try to create a separate cart for you. When you open up a kind of your web app, right, or a mobile app, you will often see that mobile app, so the product will be listed in in your dashboard, and the product will be listed in your friend's dashboard will be totally different. Not totally different, but you will see the variation in that, because Amazon has understood and trying to show you those products which you are liking to buy, right? So basically, they are trying to predict that this will be your need, right? And based on that, it is trying to show you the similar kind of product, right? And based on that, it try to increase the sales. So this is how the different organization is using this data mining, right, or a data analysis. Now, now we'll try to understand about the data, like how do we store the data, or not just storing, but we will be talking about how do we maintain the data in a cloud, right? So now for that we have to understand how do we put the data, right? So again, to build a good and efficient data systems, we first need to understand the three fundamental structure for storing informations, right? So these are data lake, data warehouse, and data mart. Now, again, what is data lake? So here we are trying to understand like as a library analogy, right? So data lake is just like a massive storage box, right? Where you can fill any information, where you can kind of fill document, images, number, or audio data or a tabular data, right? So it is like a big box where you can push everything in there, right? Then we have the second type of storage, it's called data warehouse. So in the data warehouse, so data lake was kind of simple storage where you can push every data in the raw format. And the data warehouse, what is this? Basically, this is like a library of a categorized and verified books, So what happens is we first try to take the data from the data lake one by one, try to clean it, try to organize it, and put it at a specific location. That is a data warehouse. Then we have the Data Mart. Now, Data Mart is all about a specific and departmental kind of storage, right? So it's like a small store where you will find all the type of data based on your need. Let's say that if you are working on the bank data, so you can get all the bank data on the Data Mart, right? So all the different segment of the data or that will be stored in a Data Mart, right? So the Data Mart will have the information of the specific this specific group only, like finance, a kind of HR, a kind of banking, right? So we have the three kind of storage: data lake, data warehouse, and Data Mart. Now, what is data lake? You can think of this as a vast reservoir for a raw informations. It follow a key principle. So basically it follow a schema on read type of principle, right? Where basically we try to store the data, right, without any predefined structure, right? So we also have some primary benefit of this data lake. The first is you can store any kind of data, right? We do not know how we can use the data, but we have a data and now we want to store it, we can use a data lake. So this is the flexibility that you are getting. You can push any kind of data, right? Now, the second benefit is it's a cost effective. That means we do not use very expensive cloud structure or a cloud database to store this kind of data. Basically, this kind of data is being stored in a very cheap clouds this cloud environment, right? Basically, so you can think of this as this is a kind of system where we have kept it and we don't know when we will need it. So we have kept these data aside, right? And we are not paying a lot for that. So this is the inexpensive cloud. Then we also have the other benefit as a power advanced analytics. That means, let's say that if you want to use this a huge amount of data, or if you want to use a different type of data, right? And then you want to build some system out of that, then you can use this system. Like we can, like all the LLM that you are seeing, like the chat GPT, like the Gemini, these kind of system is trained on huge pile of data, right? Then we have this machine learning models, right? So we can build this kind of system using this huge pile of data, right? Or using a data lake. But we also have a big risk in that. The big risk is we do not have a governance. That means we are not keeping track of what data is there, right? So maybe you might have a data, but you don't know that you have this kind of informations. So it is like a data swamp, where since you do not have any organization to keep the data, right, every information is undocumented, unorganized, right? So maybe you, if you need those data and you do not know, so you might not find those information, right, from the data lake, right? So we end up losing the informations. We have the data, but we don't know where the data is, we don't know how to access that data is, right? So this is what the data lake is. Now we'll be talking about data warehouse. You can think of this as an organized library for the business purpose, right? Now it follows the write and ETL schema. That means we have the data in the data lake, we access those data one by one, we try to do the ETL. ETL stand for we extract it, transform the data and load it. So load it in a different server, right? So before passing or adding any informations in the data warehouse, right? We first clean the data, we transform it, and then we create a proper structure so that we can use that data, right? Now, again, for a different kind of purpose, like let's say that if you want to kind of build a dashboard, or like let's say that if you want to build a report, right? If you want to do this analytics, now everything, like every kind of purpose, this data warehouse solves. We have a huge pile of data, but in an organized way, right? We also have this four core characteristic of this data warehouse. One is subject oriented. That means we can store the data based on different subject. We can store the sales data, uh, we can this store the finance data, and like all the things, right? And then we can also kind of organize and connect those data and make a single format, right? It is also non-volatile. That means you have the record of the data, right? So you might not end up losing it like the data lake. And it has this last category as time variant, where we store the data with the time dimension. That means if you want to know the historical pattern of your sales in a company, then you can store, or like you can use the data from the data warehouse, right? So most of the businesses have this data warehouse, right? And they store all their information in the data warehouse only. Now the last type of information is data mart. Now what is data mart? Now it is, you can think of this as an specialized bookshelf for a specific need. So basically data mart is a small version of the data warehouse, right? But the data that you will be storing in the data mart is specialized subject matter data, right? Let's say that if you just want to store the finance data, then you will create a data mart to store the finance data. But in the data warehouse, you will be storing all departmental data, right? And what is the primary goal for the data mart? Now, the primary goal is, let's say that, consider that if you are working on a specific type of task where you need a specific type of data, right? Then you can use this data mart, right? Now, we also have this benefit, like it is a faster, and you can also access this information in a simpler way, right? Because the data mart is low in volume, and because of that you can access all the information very easily, right? And user also work only with the relevant data, right? We do not want to go through this, or like we do not have to filter all the, like filter from I'll say that this filter from the huge group of the data, right? Let me know if you have any query, all of you. Now here we have this comparison of the data architecture, right? Now let's talk about the data lake. So the primary purpose of the data lake is to store the raw data, right? Without changing the format of the data. And these data can be used for the AI/ML project, right? Now primary purpose for the data warehouse is, it is used for the enterprise, right? Now this enterprise can store the multiple decisive or like decision making data. And then we have this data mart, where we try to store a different segment or different purpose data in a small vault. That is what the data mart is. Now the data lake can store all type of data, like structured data, semi-structured data, or unstructured data as well, right? Now the data warehouse, in the data warehouse, we primarily store the structure and a specific group of data. Not specific group, but all the group of data, but we store in a structured format, right? Now the data mart we use for structural data formatting. That means we follow this similar architecture as a data warehouse, but we only store a specific business need data, right? Now we use schema, that means we directly read, like we pass the data and we do not transform it, we just read from this data lake. And then in the data warehouse, we also use read and write. That means we also read the data and change the data, right? So Data Mart also, basically with the help of this Data Mart storage system, right? We try to define a different kind of information as well. Now, who is the user for this different kind of data? So typically data engineer, data scientist, right, they uses this data lake because they need a huge amount of data. Business analyst, data analyst, decision makers uses the data warehouse. And if you are a manager and if you only working with the specific type of data, then we use a data mart. Now storage cost for the data lake is very low. Storage cost for the data warehouse is higher, and for the data mart it is a moderate because the size of the data is very low, right? So what we have learned, so here we have seen that we have a multiple source of data. First we fetch or pass the data into the data lake, then we use the ETL, right? And then we transform and store the data into the data warehouse, and from the data warehouse we create a different data mart, right? This is what we have learned. And yeah, and this is the end of sessions. Please let me know, all of you, if you have any query. Yeah, if you have any query, please do let me ask. Please do let me know. Please ask the questions, all of you. Okay, we have questions. Okay, uncover hidden pattern. No, informative. No questions, all of you. Hello. Yes, no. Okay. Yeah. Great. Great. Right. So what we had discussed is we had discussed about how do we store the data. We had discussed about how do we analyze the data. We had discussed about what are the different format of the data, right? And in the industry people uses all these technique. Again, what we have seen is a kind of a small fraction of the knowledge. We have seen the overview of all this information, but when you go into the detail, right, every topic is itself a new branch of study, right? So let's say that when you talk about a big data, right, now to manage a big data, which part, sir? I did not understood which part. So can you just ask a more elaborative questions?
Yes, I think Mr. Umayal is saying he's not able to follow. So I asked him which part specifically he's not able to follow so that you can explain that particular part.
I think
Mr.
he
Umayal,
said.
if you can just put in chat which part you're not able to follow. Otherwise, you can move ahead, Raj, and let him respond.
Okay. I think he have said able to follow well.
Okay, able to follow well. Okay,
Yeah.
able to follow. Fine, fine.
Yeah.
I thought not. Sorry.
Yeah. 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 Great. So we were discussing about yeah, big data. So big data, even to manage the big data, we have a specific engineer in the systems, or in the industry, who is specialized in handling the big data at a server level and at a logical level as well, right? Let's say that when you talk about the data mining, now the data mining is not so basically under this data mining we have this multiple segment, right? So mostly we learn about machine learning, and every machine learning technique itself is a new, I would say that it's a challenging topic. It's a pure mathematical techniques, right? So the people uses all this machine learning technique and try to analyze and make sense of the data and try to make the business decisions, right? Even let's say that when we did discussed about the data lake or like data warehouse or the data mart, all these three things is handled by the data engineers, right? So we have a special data engineer who know how to create a pipeline to take the data from the data lake and push it to the data warehouse, and basically we try to change the format of the data and store it into the data warehouse, and then we create a specific data storage as a data mart, right? So for that we have a data engineer. Now to analyze the data and create a good dashboard, we have a data analyst, right? So the data analyst is a kind of people who have understanding about the business, who have understanding about some technique. So it try to get the data in a specific format and make sense of that data according to the business need and try to create a dashboard, right? So every task is kind of assigned to a different group of people or like different specialist, right? And I guess, yeah, this is it. Like again, I'm asking, do we have any query or should we wrap this up, all of you? No query, all of you? I think we do not have any query. I think then we should wrap this up. Okay. Can we wrap this up now, all of you? Again, we have the more chat.
You
Okay.
still have half an hour to go. The time
Yeah,
for
we
it.
have. I think. Yeah, we have this half an hour, but I think we can ask the questions. We have no things to discuss on this, right? Yeah.
You can ask them quiz questions, something, because the next trainer will be coming
Yeah.
at 7:30. I can check with them how soon they can come, but you
Okay.
can do some quizzing, do some quiz questions for the next
Mm-hmm.
5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. So again, all of you, please interact. Please interact if you have any query, any questions about any topic. Let's say that if you have the query about AI, ML, let's say that if you have this question about the deep learning, agentic AI, or like building a kind of a system around this AI. Let's say that if you have this query about the data analyst and everything. So I can give you the answers to each and every topics. So if you have any query, even some out of the topics, right, please do ask.
I'll
Okay.
suggest that you ask them some quiz questions based
Mhm.
on the topics that you have covered.
Yes.
So, like it's 7:10, you
I
can take 15
I
minutes,
think
ask few
we have
questions.
we have
So
for
there are some
questions.
questions from the.
Yes. How to analyze more data with deep learning and which method is helpful, CNN or RNN? Okay. So when you talk about the deep learning, again, to kind of process more data on the deep learning, first thing is you need a huge RAM, right? Maybe so yeah. So basically, you need not RAM, but you need a huge GPU. That is a hardware level, but at a software level you need to build a good or I'll say that a deep learning system I'll say that CNN based, like if you try to analyze a image data, then you need a CNN. But if you try to analyze the text data, then you use the RNN technique. So both technique is a separate. RNN will be used to understand the text data and CNN will be used to understand the image data. All right. Now, if you talk about how do we analyze more data, of course you can do that, right? But let's say that if you are building a models, right? So if your model has a 10 layer, maybe you can increase to the 100 layer, right? Then you can process a huge amount of data. Make sense, Santhil? Any more questions, all of you? What is the minimal data we can use CNN and RNN? Wait a minute. Okay, CNN for image and RNN for text. Yes. We have tail, but again, the question is what is the minimal data we can use, CNN or RNN? So the question is not clear. But let's say that what I'm trying to understand is how minimal data we can use for the CNN. Let's say that if you have the kind of 50 images, you can use CNN, right? And let's say that if you have this 100 rows of text data, then you can use RNN. So the deep learning model is able to pick up those information, but you cannot process 10 images or a 10 line of text data. Then your deep learning system might not able to pick up the pattern from your data. Always understand, to make a good deep learning models, you need to push a kind of huge amount of data, maybe 2 or 3 GB of the image data, or maybe sometimes people use the 10 GB of the image data, right, to kind of good CNN based models. Make sense? Now can we go with the okay, do so first tell me, do you know again what are the different models we have? We also have the question, what are the different models? Now again, can you be more specific, Umail? What are the different model means at what sense? Since we have the broad topics, so are you talking about the RNN or the CNN model, or are you talking about, so again, can you be more specific? Or are you talking about the different deep learning models? Omyal, SP Omyal. Okay, if you are asking about the different deep learning models, so model is what? Again, first you have to understand what is models. Okay, model in one sense, it is a pure function. So let's say that if you have some understanding about the coding, so when you write a function, model is just a function, but those function we do not write, but those function is being written by understanding the patterns of the image, or like of the data, right? So we do not like, or like we do not write a specific logic what will go into the function. Let's say that if you're trying to build a image models, right, or a deep learning model which can process the image data, let's understand this. Now for that, now what kind, let's say that again I'm trying to be more specific. If you're trying to build a deep learning model to understand whether this image belongs to a human being or whether this image belongs to a electronic gadgets. Now to understand how the human being looks and to understand how the electronic gadgets being look, so what you have to do is you have to give the different images in a different pose, in a different variation of the human being, so as for the electronic gadget as well, right? And those data will be pushed to the model, and model is what? It is just a function. Now what will go inside the function, those logics is nothing but the pattern of the both type of images, and we do not give or we do not write any logic inside a function. Those logic is being written automatically. Okay, and to write those logic automatically we use a different mathematics. You might have learned about optimization, loss function, gradient descent. These are the few techniques we have, right, which help you to write a good pattern, or which help you to understand the pattern of the data to build a deep learning models, right? Now when you talk about the different deep learning models, so again we do not say we have a different deep learning model. Let's say that you should have asked what kind of or what different of data we can process using the deep learning model. This is what you should have asked. So using a deep learning model you can process the text data, we can process the tabular data, we can process the time series data. Okay, we can process the image data, we can process the video data, we can process, I'll say that or like yeah, so these are the few basics type of data that you can process with the help of deep learning. But under that deep learning we have the different techniques. So for the image data we have a different techniques, right? And yeah, so for the text data we have the different technique and so on. Any more query we have? All of you? Do we have any more query? Now I just want to ask, did you just understood what is the difference between distributed data storage and scalable architecture? What is the difference we have? Please be specific. Or how do you justify what is distributed data storage and what is scalable architecture? Yes, all of you, please answer. We have 42 participants, right? I'm hoping the answer for at least 10 people. No? Okay, let me give you the answer for this. So, distributed data storage is all about where we store the data at a different locations, or we store the data across different systems, right? You can even see these images, right? So we have this one node over here, one node over here, and one node over here. So that means our data is being stored in all the nodes. And what is scalability? Scalability means we can, let's say that we are a small organizations, right? And now, and now let's say that after 2 years our our business will grow and we need a more data storage. So what we do, let's say that you have the laptop, right? And now let's say that you need to store a more data. So what you will do, you will add a new SSD, right? That is what you are trying to do. Let's say that you have only two slots for the to kind of store it, right? Now basically you need a highly sophisticated system. You do not store all the information or the GBs of information in just one or two hard disk, right? So this distributed data storage solves that purpose. Now this scalability architecture means, let's say that at some point if you need to store more data, so you just need to add more nodes and that's it. You do not have to do any software changes. So that scalability is possible with the Hadoop, right? Any more questions we have? So we have something in the chat. Can you give minimal hardware setup for the deep learning for the, oh, I think Senthil Kumar is, you are so good with the deep learning. Okay, so the minimal hardest, this minimal hardware setup is, okay, I will tell you a cloud platform to use it. Let's say that you are just trying to learn deep learning. Do not try to run or work on your systems. Try to use cloud systems, right? Because again, Google gives you a infrastructure to run a deep learning models. That is called Google Colab, and I hope all of you already know about that. So the Google Colab is a systems which which gives you the kind of multiple GPU to work on the process, or like, so not, so basically again those are free to use, right? But you can only work on that systems maybe 1 or 1.5 hour or 2 hours. After that it will refresh, right? But let's say that if you are trying to set up a system at your home or like hardware at your home, I would say you should at least have 10 to 12 GB of RAM in your maybe laptop or your desktop, right? So yeah, at least 10 to 12 GB of RAM might help you. Or let's say that if you are working on the Mac, I would say use a Mac 4, like M4 Mac Mini, right? That will do lot of the task, right? M4 Mac Mini can be used to kind of process a huge amount of data. So that is what you can do at a minimal cost, maybe under 1 lakh. Okay. Any more query? Senthil Kumar? Okay, great. Now we still have some times, so we can do some more QA. right? And let's talk about, okay, I just want some examples from the classification. So give me some business example where we can use a classification algorithms. Okay, we have discussed 2 to 3 business example to understand this classification algorithm. Please, all of you, please try to be specific. You can again think of any businesses, right, where we can use a classification algorithm. You can, maybe you can even think from the from the local store in your neighborhood, right? They can even use this machine learning technique. So the question is, give me some business problem that can be solved with the help of classification algorithms. Again, I'm hoping for 1 or 2 answers out of 42 participants, please. Okay, to purchase a phone. Okay, how we can use to purchase a phone? How we can use classification to purchase a phone? Please be more specific. Yes, SP Umyal. Yes, other people. Yeah, we have a lot of candidate. We have Abhay, Abhishek, Ami, Amit. Then we have Anita, Ankit, Ankur. We have Kalpana. We have Sridevi, Sivani. We have Tejaswini. We have Vignesh, Yogesh Mehta, Tushar, Tejaswini. We have a lot of candidate. All of you, please answer the questions. Yeah, so this depend on the RAM processor capacity. So you are saying that we'll be using classification algorithms to classify whether this phone, again, you can think, you can say that we can classify a kind of expensive phone or a non-expensive phones, right? Based on what are the different characteristic and what are the different component we have in the phone, right? We can classify whether this phone is at a higher cost or whether this phone is at the lower cost. Then we can use a classifications. Now the second example or answer that we are getting is resume screening, product review, sentiment analysis. Yeah, for the product review, sentiment analysis, of course, yeah, it is type of classification, but under the hood, but we have to process the text data to kind of get the sentiment, right? And to process the text data, we have to use the NLP. So it's a combination of NLP, and after doing this NLP, right, we try to kind of make sense of those data, and then we fetch those extracted information to the classification to this classification algorithms. Now the another answer that we are getting is a bank might classify loan applications at a high risk. Yes, definitely. This is a very good examples, right? Bank actually often use this technique to kind of whether we should give a loan to this person or not, right? So they have the, I don't know, so when you go to a bank, right, this manager have a dashboard and it will try to open this each and everything about your transaction and like history, and like it will try to ask everything about you, right? And based on that it will try to decide whether this person should be given a loan or not, right? Yes, this is very good examples. Now let's give some more example about predictions, right? Give me some example about where we can use a predictions. Yes, all of you. Give me some example about where we can use the prediction value or like prediction algorithms. Sales forecasting. Yes, great. right? We can try to see, let's say that this is a new year, right? So we will try to see what sales will happen in this year. So to understand the pattern of sales in this year, we will try to understand the what has happened in the next 10 years. Sorry, not next 10 years, previous 10 years, right? And based on those information, a machine learning algorithm will identify the pattern happened in your businesses, right? How your businesses have worked at a different time frame, and based on that, it will try to give you the answers. Yes, agricultural crop growth. Yes, definitely, we can try to predict what will be the crop growth, but again, for that you have to kind of get data at maybe for each day, or like maybe for each week or something like that, right? But you can do something like we can predict what will be the crop yield, right, in this years. So again, mostly you can use this algorithms, right? So basically it will try to kind of gives you that our crop yield was happened maybe a 10 ton from our farm. So maybe in the next 2 years or in the next 2 months, what will be the next crop yield? Yes. The another example is prediction of stock prices on the 3 month, 6 month. Yes, definitely. We can do the prediction of stock prices, but let me tell you, again, many people is trying to use machine learning algorithms to kind of decide the stock prices. But of course we can use machine learning, mathematically it is good, but in the real world, specifically in the stock prices, you cannot decide what will happen, right? So yeah, there are also many platform who is trying to sell that we have some agentic algorithms which can help you to kind of gives you the analysis what will be the stock prices of a different stock. You should never trust them because that is not possible in the real world. Yeah, but mathematically we can do that because we store the information based on time, right? I think, yeah, this is it. Again, we have some more time, some 2 to 3 more minutes. If you have any query, please do ask. No query? Yeah, I think this is it then, all of you.
Yes, thank you so much, Raj, for taking that session and for enlightening our faculty members. Thank you so much. You can stop sharing,
Okay.
and I'll now welcome our new trainer. Smita Kumaran is here. Uh,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
Thank you so much, Raj.
Okay. Bye bye.
Hello, Smita. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see you. So, a brief introduction about Smita. Smita is a very dear friend and colleague, ex-colleague. So, she's a veteran, having served in L&D, in Wipro, and of course, very, very familiar with, NASCOM Future Skills Prime platform. And now she's into her own venture, AI venture, where she is training, helping to train people in emerging technologies. So over to you, Smita, for your session.
Thank you. Are we not giving a break for people?
Yeah, we should, but I think we have a mandate from, we can give a break, sure. So
How
how
many of
we
you
can
need a
give,
break? How many of you need a break? See, this is your chance to behave like students. Right?
yes,
Always you
yes.
have to be faculty. This is your chance to behave like students. How many of you need a break?
You can put it in the chat.
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand, yes.
Nobody wants a break. So we'll continue. Okay, so yeah, thanks, Kamna. So we'll get started. Okay, what is that? You start,
You,
madam. Very
you start,
nice.
madam.
Look at that.
Very conscientious
I
students. Nobody
I
wants a
know.
break.
If all of you had after a long day, 3 hours, yes. I know what those three dots mean, but let's see how we can make it interesting. Okay.
Yeah, basically, just to tell you, Smita, this is a format which is approved by AICT. and we are following that format.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I was just trying to sneak in 2 minutes of my time so that at least some breathing time.
Sure, sure, sure.
Move from a very heavy subject to something which is more quest to all
Your
of
voice is
you.
gone. Your voice is gone.
Really? What about now?
Yeah, yeah, now it's back. Yeah.
Okay. So I have one request to all of you. Um, behave as if behave like how your students should behave, right? So you always think, oh, only if my students were like this. So I want you to be those students, like who's I'm assuming you would all want students which are, I mean, who are looking forward to listening to things, participating eagerly, answering questions, asking questions, right? And at least show some enthusiasm. Okay, so that's what I need from all of you. And also keep in mind, you have another task, which is to see where am I behaving or where are you behaving like how I am behaving, right? I'm taking a class here. So consider I'm the teacher. So in your lives, you are all teachers. So see where I'm making mistake and you can introspect whether you're making the same mistakes, right? When another person is making, it is very easy to see that. So please don't leave this chance. Write down all the mistakes that I'm making and see if you're making the same mistake. You can also tell me, I'll be more than happy to correct them. Okay, so two requests of you. One is please behave like the students of your dreams. You are those students. So I will see how your students have to be, right? What's your vision about students? And then find out my mistakes. Okay, now to the crux of this session. This session is about, what is this session about? Kamna, you want to tell the title of the session? You are on mute.
I'll let you go ahead with this.
Okay. Yeah. So this session is about problem solving techniques. Why do you have to learn problem solving techniques? Especially in general, why do you need to learn these problem solving techniques? And there were some acronyms like PDSA, 5I. Yeah. Wow. Very good. That's Narsi Reddy. Very good. I hope your students behave the same way as you by being so proactive. Okay, so we have a set of tools that are given here. Why do you think we need to learn these tools? Question number one. Question number two, why in the context of DAF? What is the overall course that you are all doing? Digital Application Fundamentals. Okay, so you're facing a lot of problems. So to overcome, you want to learn some methods. Okay, very good. I would love to hear some of those problems, Umayal. Okay, why are we learning this in the context of DAF? What is DAF? The course that you are attending. What is DAF? What is the full form of DAF? Digital Application Fundamentals. That is DAF. Okay. So at the end of the session, I need an answer from you on why is this relevant in the DAF context. Okay, I'm not going to cover that in the session, but I want you all to cover. I mean, you all have to answer that for me. Okay. So let me. Okay, so the reason why we need to learn problem solving models, and before all that, we need to learn how to define problems. All this because problems are, like how Umayal was saying, there are a lot of problems that we are facing, and some of our usual methods of solving them is not working. Things are changing, and we keep blaming it on Gen Z internet and everything else, social media, but we also have to skill up, right? That's the reason why we are learning problem solving models. So how exactly are we going to do? We are all very smart, aren't we? Otherwise, why are we here? Why are you all sitting in a session after a long day of work, sitting for 3 hours? Because you know that there is something. Whatever be the reasoning, there is some reason why you are there in this class, and that itself shows that you're smart. But then, why are we struggling with those problems? Right? Because I don't know how many of you have had a similar example. There was a brilliant professor who was very eager to have extremely good student participation. So they got some feedback from the students, and the entire summer vacation, they were revamping everything. Everything, as in the way that course is taught, the activities, the quizzes, made it more interactive, made it more story like, everything. But at the end of the next semester, the result, same complaints, but in different words. So, what happened here? The professor, although they were very interested in solving the problem, they solved probably the wrong problem. But because they were a brilliant professor, solved it brilliantly. But result, not so good. Right? So when intuition, why does intuition fail? In most of the time, we are all so good in problem solving. We solve so many problems in our life. Right now, we were trying to solve. Okay, I'm not. I mean, Kamna wasn't able to hear me, and somebody else said they are able to hear. So many problems. I mean, in India, that's something which we can genuinely be proud of. That we are jugaad masters. We are really good in solving problems. But then, still, there is this challenge, and we're trying to see what that challenge is. Right. So most of the previous problems that probably generations faced were physical, obvious problems. And they were very immediate that you had to solve it for getting to the next step. So it was easier for them to see whether a problem and the solution worked or not. But today's problems are not like that. All those small problems are solved already in some way or the other. Either we have the infrastructure and the wherewithal that problems don't exist, or if the problem exists also, we have the tools to deal with them. So such problems don't exist today. But today's problems are complex. And this is also the reason why a lot of AICT, including, is talking about multidisciplinary learning, right? Because today's problems cannot be solved with a single lens, with depth in one subject. You need to have awareness and experience and expertise across multiple dimensions for you to look at the problem clearly itself. So I'll give you two examples. I mean, let's say you're all my final year students and you have to pick a project. Okay. At the end of the project, you need to show me working prototype. Every single time I ask you to show it, you should be able to run this project in a specified time and show me. So there are two things you can pick. The entire class can pick only two things. One is you have a 10,000 piece puzzle, right? The small puzzles pieces. So you have a picture, you have those 10,000 puzzles. You need to find the fastest way of putting those pieces back. That is project number one. Project number two, I will put an ant in the corner of a table. You need to take that ant to the other corner, but without touching it. No physical. You cannot take the ant and put it there, but in some way you have to guide the ant to the other side. So these are the two projects. You are final year students. You need to show this, demo this project to me at the end of the semester consistently. That's the key word there, right? You should be able to do that. I want to know how many people will pick the 10,000 piece puzzle problem. How many of you, are the projects clear? One is 10,000 piece puzzle. The second is moving an ant from one corner of the table to the other corner of the table. Table is, let's say, 2 by 2 table, 2 feet by 2 feet table. Are the problems clear? Students behave like your best students. Are the problems clear? Okay. Yes, you'll pick anything, but you have to choose one. So how many of you will, I need show of hands. I mean, you just click on that hand button if you are going to pick the puzzle, 10,000 puzzle problem. Tell me who all will be interested in picking that 10,000 puzzle problem. How many of you are going to pick that? Okay, one. Okay. So another 5 seconds for you to think. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so only Arul is choosing that. Arul, I'm extremely interested in figuring out why you picked that. So I'm assuming you cannot be without choosing anything. So I'm assuming all of you, all the others picked the ant problem. Can one of you type in the chat, why did you pick the ant problem? Arul, you can down that hand. Can some of you tell? And problem. So Dipali has written, Nirmal is saying 10,000. I'll take second. Okay, a lot of people are picking the second problem. So tell why you would pick the ant problem. Guiding ant is better and easy than solving the 10,000 puzzle. Okay. I can put some foot to it and make it move. Okay. But that ant was coming out from a sugar dabba. Not interested in sugar or anything at all. Okay, so why, Arul, I want to know why you picked the 10,000 piece puzzle. Anybody who picked the 10,000 piece puzzle other than, I think, Nirmal, right? Yeah, anybody tell me why you would one puzzle to set and complete the whole? Okay. Okay. So you folks are the right set of people for this class because you picked a wrong problem. You know what the issue is? There was a keyword in my statement. What is the keyword? The project has to be demoed at the end of the semester. What was that keyword? Anybody? Consistently. How many of you remember that word? 10,000 piece puzzle. You can easily find a pattern and then fix it. Let's say you're able to do it in 1 hour. Over 6 months, that's the typical duration of a project, you will be able to become better at it. And at one point of time, you can consistently reproduce, creating that puzzle in whatever time that is given. But when it comes to an ant, you just cannot move that ant wherever you want. Have you seen, even if you try to create a obstacle, it will try and go in some other way to wherever it wants to go, not where you want to go. It's not consistent. You cannot do that all the time in whatever method you have, and you will fail at the end of the 6th semester because on that day, the ant is not moving. It's a different ant altogether, and it's not moving the way you thought it would move. Okay, because the puzzles, they are inanimate objects, right? It doesn't have a brain of its own. You keep a puzzle piece in one place, that will stay there. Whereas you cannot control the ant because it has its own mind. So today's problem that all of you are trying to solve are with others, right? With others, society and everything, mostly due to human and their ways of being. And we can't control that. So those problems are really tough, and that's where we need all these problem solving methods and everything. So because all of you picked a wrong problem, which is the tough problem, you should have picked the puzzle problem. You guys have to stay through this entire session. I was thinking if all of you are picking the puzzle problem, I will just say you folks are brilliant. You know which problem to solve, how to solve the problem, and we will wind up the session and give Kamna also a break. But unfortunately, you have to stay. So what are simple problems? Simple problem. There's a fire. The solution is very obvious. You either put, depending on the fire, whether it is um, either put water or mud or whatever, and the fire is dosed. Whereas student engagement, it's a complex problem. We don't know what the problem itself, why the students are not engaged, and the solution is even more unclear, right? So not Yeah, that's also a good point. Any GPT will solve it for me. Yeah, very good. But then I would really love to see how you will do it using a GPT. Theoretically, any GPT can solve, but then how will you do it when you are given a physical 10,000 piece puzzle? Okay. So what formal methods will teach you is see the problems clearly, not just the symptoms. Symptom is student engagement. How do you see the problem clearly? Choose your battles wisely. Not every problem you have to solve. You have to solve maybe one part of a problem. You have to solve maybe one aspect of a problem, not everything. You have to solve a problem maybe for a limited duration. You don't have to solve every problem for eternity in all aspects. No, you don't have to. So you'll have to choose how you will pick problems. Why do we have to do that? Because if you everyday problem solving is very exhausting. And if you use all your energy in that, where are you going to put energy into teaching and creating interesting classes and everything? Right? It's going to be very difficult. So that's why you learn these formal methods. And it also helps you pick the right tool. Otherwise, all the things that were there in the session heading, PDSA, 5, all these things, you just Google it, you'll at the time when you have to use it, you'll be able to see how to use it. Then why are we learning all these things? Because for each situation, there is a different tool that you need to pick. So you have to first understand that there are different situations and that there are different tools for them. Right. And then, of course, this is the zamana of AI. So we will see how AI can help you, how the GPT can help you. Okay, so that's what we are going to cover. So by end of this session, you should be able to see when is a formal method required? Not everything. Like a simple fire, you don't need a problem solving method and you see, oh, which quadrant, where am I, what am I trying to do? No, which tool? No, not required because you know what the solution is and you just do it. All right. So distinguish problems from symptoms. This we will cover. And yeah, there are some techniques that we are trying to learn. You would have seen it in different contexts. We're going to see this in the problem solving context. And we are also going to see human-centered problem, how to identify them. And that's the reason why this is relevant. This particular session is relevant in this overall digital application fundamentals. Okay. So what are the tools we'll explore? PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act, Plan, Do, Check, Act also is another name, 5 Whys, or it's called Fishbone. And we'll do flowcharts, mind maps, etc. But what I'm going to do is not spend a lot of time on how to use the tool, but rather when and why. So this is not just tool, it's a way of thinking. And I'm hoping that this is going to help you in your everyday life and not just for probably an AICT certificate. So let's look at the language in which we define the problems, right? So we most often we define problems as projectives. What's a projective? It's a problem plus objective. They are mashed together, right? It's like you just cannot, I am not able to lose weight. That's not the actual problem. The problem is I am not eating properly. I'm not exercising properly, or something like that. That is the problem. I am not able to lose weight is more like a projective, because I'm saying my objective is to lose weight. I'm not able to do it. So it already tells what I need to do. Right. So you're not thinking anything fresh. You can only do what that statement, you're bound by that statement. You cannot think properly. So for example, we need to improve student engagement. The problem is really hidden here. What is happening? And there is a solution already assumed, right? It improve, which means that something is broken and you have to improve the student engagement. By improving student engagement, what's going to happen? You've already made some assumptions. So this is really not a problem statement. Okay. So how do you how do you do projectives to problems? You have to, so just let's see some examples. I'm not going to read this out, but just see it. I'm hoping you're all seeing the screen. So rather than saying students don't pay attention, tell 60% of the students are in phones within 15 minutes of my class. All right. Research output is low. Faculty is publishing 40% fewer papers than peers. So now, if you see the way the projectives are defined into transformed into problems, can we see some pattern? Probably the pattern is symptom is what you notice first. Right? Students are sleeping. In my class, I mean, right now I can say there's nobody who's interacting. There's nothing in the chat. People are worried about their certificates and how they will get the certificates instead of seeing what the problems are and how to solve problems. Right? But what's actually happening is like one of the people had, I think Nirmal had written, it's after a long day. Right. And they are sitting on a class after a very heavy session of data analysis in Hadoop and big data and all. So it is tough. So I am not blaming you for that. But the moment I say that, oh, what is this, Kamna? Nobody is responding. The class is very dull. That's like telling it's a projective. That's not a problem that I'm going to tell. Right. And why does it keep happening? Because there is so you're assuming something when you are writing the projective. So some of the words that will kill your problem solving, there will be some, we use some of these vague words like improve, enhance, optimize. We have to optimize, we have to do this better. Then we have some judgments like lazy students, there is an outdated curriculum, social media influence, there are no job threats, AI is taking away jobs. We have so many judgments when we frame the problem itself. And we'll also have solution words hidden inside the problem statement that we're making. That we'll say need, should, must, all these things will be there. And sometimes we use words like always, never, everyone, all of them, students are, right? Some universal claims we make. We cannot solve such problems. The moment you have such things, it's difficult to solve that problem because we're not talking of specificity. It lacks specificity. So the formula for creating a clean problem statement is it has to be a specific observation. It needs to have something which you have measured, which you've seen, right? And it is not a plus. It's really a minus saying there shouldn't be an implied solution. So if you have a specific observation and a measurable impact, that's how you can create a clean problem statement. Okay, so for example, assignment submission rates drop from 95 to 60 after the mid-semester break. This is affecting 12 courses. Now there's something that you can do about it. Instead of saying students are not submitting assignments, it's very difficult to solve such problems. So think of any problem that you're facing now. You don't have to write it down or anything, but then just see how you can do this exercise. Just one problem that you're facing, write it down think about it. Are you defining it like a projective, or are you writing it like a problem? Is there something you can do so that the projectives become a problem? Any of you got any problem? Projective or a problem? How many of you had it as projectives? Okay. So for problem definition as such, we can always use any of the AI tools. You pick your favorite tool and then you see this is the problem that I'm facing in your own words. So it can be projective, it can be a long paragraph, it can be a short paragraph, it can be anything. And then you ask the tool to separate what am I observing, what's actually happening, what might be causing it. So it'll ask you questions to get more information and then help you rewrite this problem. Why is this important? Because in any problem solving situation, the right problem, defining the right problem is very, very important. The next, you don't have to solve all your problems. So this is something I'm sure all of you have faced. There's something that we don't like about how the university has set the syllabus, how your college conducts it, how your HOD wants you to track attendance or do things, how your students are not doing something, right? There are so many things where probably you are affected because of something that is happening outside of something that you haven't done anything, but then something you are the victim there. Right. So here comes a professor who spent 2 years fighting university's exam policy. They didn't like the way the exams was conducted, multiple choice questions, rote learning. There's no real learning happening. We are not seeing if the students are able to apply the concept. So they are fighting with the university every day on why this is not correct. What happens? University is too large to listen to that one professors, whatever they are saying, how much ever they are experienced, all these things. Any of you have have faced such problems where you've tried solving something which is like too large or something which actually left you exhausted, right? If you have something, keep that problem in mind because we are going to see how to solve such problems too. Right. So in this kind of scenario, you're actually putting in a lot of effort and you're thinking that you're being productive, but then you're not effective because the problem still remains. Right. So these are problems that are outside your control. Right. So I'm sure you've all heard about this concept, circle of control, influence, concern, right? This was made famous by Stephen Covey in um, in his famous book, right? Effective 7 Habits of Effective People. Now, this we can use this in the context of problem solving as well. So, what is your circle of control? That you can directly change, where the solution is in your circle of control, right? Your teaching methods, the way you use your time, the way you interact with students, the way you interact with your peers, the way you raise voice in a public forum like LinkedIn or any other forums, right? What's in your circle of influence? What you can affect through others? It's like department decisions or probably another colleague, how you can collaborate, how you can guide your students. Those are places where you can influence. What are concerns? But then those are too large a thing that an individual may not be able to solve it in a limited time, right? So this as a backdrop of problem solving helps you get much quicker result. So the first thing is define your problem properly. Then you figure out where is your problem lying, where is your solution lying. And the intelligent thing to do is bring your solution to your circle of control to start with. Then you can expand, but have it like that. So what happened? Where's your problem? Where's the lever? So let's say the problem might be in the circle of concern. We can always get the solution into your circle of control. So typically, university has an outdated syllabus. What do we say? Oh, we have to make sure the university changes syllabus. You write to them, you go and talk in all these seminars, you tell them this is not working, you get some industry expert to talk to them, get them into the board, but nothing is changing because it takes time. It's a huge, large, slow engine, right? So how AI will help problem solving? I think I just told one part of it. So you have to, if you sit through it, Senthil, probably you will get some part of it because I'm talking about different steps. And at each step, I'm going to tell you how AI is going to help you. At the first step was defining the problem clearly. And I gave you a scenario how you can use AI and a prompt was there. I think I will share it with Kamna so she can send it out to all of you. So there is a prompt so you can see how AI is going to help you. No, ML techniques are not needed for every kind of problem, Senthil, because some of the problems are human centric, right? For everything else, yeah, there is ML and AI, but for some of the problems where these things are not there, that's what we are covering here. Okay. So what could be a smart move where you can bring the solution into your circle of control? How can I prepare? What happens when university has an outdated syllabus? Your students are not able to get the latest in that particular sphere. So how do you create time and energy in your students so that they can explore? How do you guide them? So that's something which you can do. You don't have to you don't have to fight the system to always create the desired results. So that's another way in which you will have effective problem solving by looking at it from the lens of circle of control, influence, and concern. So let's look at some of the problems where we are actually thinking that it is outside of our control, but how do you bring it inside your circle of control? Okay. So the concern is students are coming unprepared from school. They're just clearing the 12th boards and they are coming into colleges. They don't have the fundamentals, right? So you can always say, oh no, schools are not teaching well, all these things. But what can you do? You can have bridge assignments. You can say 2 weeks, let's just brush up everything that you learned in class. All these things. A lot of colleges do these kind of thing. At least if the college is not doing for your subject, can you prepare your lesson plan in such a way that at least the first 2, 3 classes you're spending in giving these bridge assignments, right? So another thing that is very common is I don't get research funding. So how do you get it to a very specific area where you can actually show some results and then say that for this result, I need more funding, right? Nothing talks like money. You are able to say that this is how there is value, there is benefit that you can make. That will give you more funding and more result and more support and everything. Right. So this is just an example of how do you when you frame the problem, when you're looking for a solution, if the solution is too big and you cannot execute it, you cannot control it, how do you bring it to your circle of control so that you can actually do something about it? That's the only way you can solve those problems. Otherwise, we will all be armchair activists, right? Sitting and talking about Ukraine and Russia and how US should not do things in Greenland and what not, right? Everything. We can just talk about it now. What can you do today about it? If there is nothing that we can do, then do nothing. That's the best way to do. There's no point in doing all these armchair activism. You can as well spend that effort in doing something which is more productive, which is more grounded to your life. Very personal take, not anything that AICT is telling. So this is what has been come through a lot of our ancient wisdom also. What is in your power? And then take the rest as it happens. Anybody, any resemblances to what ancient Indian Hindu wisdom talks about? How many of you can relate that to Bhagavad Gita? Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma bhaleshu kadajana. Right? Just do your duty and forget the rest. Right? Make the best use of what is in your power and then take the rest as it happens. So, what has changed is your sphere of control is much bigger than what you think. But you have to start working on it. So, the concentric circles, I didn't put that picture because it will derail some of your thinking. So the concentric circles show that your circle of control is much smaller and circle of influence is bigger and the circle of concern is the largest. It need not be that way. The problems, the way you phrase it, the way you phrase your solutions, it is enough even if you have that much area where you can control, right? Your problem is solved. So one quick check. The problem that you thought of earlier, I was asking you then whether it was defined correctly, right? Whether it was a projective or a problem. Did you define it with specific measurable things? Did you have a solution built into the problem that it became projective? Or was it a real problem statement? If it is a problem statement, where is your problem? Where's your solution? Are you spending energy in the right place? If you haven't done the first exercise, this is the time you can do that also. Anything that's bothering you, Umayal was telling she's having they're having lot of problems. So pick any problem that's bothering and see if you have defined it correctly. What is the correct definition? It has to be specific. It should have something measurable. So we cannot say students are not coming to class. It's better to say 30% of my students are not attending class 80% of the time. Now that's a better problem that we can solve, right? So it has to have some specificity and there has to be some measure to it. You can also say, it need not be number measure, but it has to be something which we can see, right? I am not able to like a personal example, I'm not able to sit down and get up without using my hands. That's a problem, right? So there is something to measure. So that's the way you frame a problem. And then you see what circle is my problem of getting up from the floor is in my circle of control only. Problem is also because I haven't put an effort. I haven't kept myself fit. Where is my lever? I can do exercises to make my lower body stronger, my ankles mobile, so that I can get up without the support of hands. Right? So this is a problem that I'm working on currently. That's why that came in. Are you spending energy in the right place? Right? So this is how you understand if you are in the right track for problem solving. So what we are seeing so far is the correct way of identifying problems so that you can use the correct tools that are there in the topic of the session, PDSA, 5S, 5 I's, and all those things. Right? So once you have identified the problem, once you have brought the solution to your circle of control, again, there is problem because you are not your user for which you are solving the problem. Right? So here comes our professor who sees that the students are not able to apply the learnings in certain context. So I had a classmate who was a professor in IIT, and she used to talk about how her students were complaining to the dean that she was giving them newer problems in the exam. Mind you, this is IIT. The ma'am has never taken such things in class. She is giving us new problems in the exam. Right? So this professor figures out that they are not able to solve, the students are not able to solve problems by themselves, and they create a very big detailed study guide, right? Spend so much of effort because they are very sincere. The professor is very sincere that they want the students to understand everything. But then they realize that no one is using those study guides. Rather, students are either asking ChatGPT or they are looking at YouTube where some shortcuts are given. Some senior has given some tips. Those are the things that the students are using. This is because the professor is thinking from their angle, right? How is this to be taught? How should one learn it? Assuming that the student is in certain place. இப்போ இந்த டைம்ல நான் வந்து தமிழ்ல பேச आरம்பிச்சிட்டேன்னா என்ன आगो? और अगर मैं हिंदी में बात करूं तो आधे से ज्यादा लोगों को पता ही नहीं चलेगा कि क्या हो रहा है, right? If I assume that half of you, from the names, I'm just making some judgment. Some of you are South Indians, some of you are North Indians. So let's say I start talking in Tamil, half of you will not understand because I've made some assumptions on what you know, right? And I've also made some, if I start talking in Hindi, half the others wouldn't know, right? So we do assume a lot of things based on our common sense, our past experience and everything. If I start all these things, it's going to be that's how the professor did in this case. They thought there is a way to learn and they have created the study guide in that manner, whereas the students are not able to use it that way. So what happened? We'll see what happens. The curse of knowledge is an interesting thing you can search in Google, I mean, Google or ChatGPT or anywhere, you'll figure out what that is. It's an interesting thing. So how do we do human-centered design? All right. So let's say, so the things in bracket are for me to figure out that this cannot go beyond 5 minutes. Okay, because these are topics which can be in itself an hour of half a day session. All right. So observe before assuming. Right? You have to, so in Six Sigma, in lean methodology, all these things, there are a step called you go and see principle, right? So you go sit with where the actual problem is happening and understand, just observe. Don't ask, don't do anything, just see how they are. Let's say in this previous case, when the professor realizes that the students are not able to solve problems, you just make them solve it in front of you. So you know where they are struggling, right? Is this the concept? Is that they are forgetting the formula to solve it? Or they are not able to structure it properly? Or they are just plain lazy that they are just writing one or two sentences instead of elaborating so that the professor is not even able to gauge what the student is thinking, right? Just observe before assuming that this is the reason why the students are not able to solve it. So the second thing is when you start asking questions, don't ask what is the problem, right? So it's most, or in other words, ask them what's difficult, right? Because the moment you ask problem, there is a negative connotation and people wouldn't want to accept a lot of things. The moment you move it to what is difficult, it's slightly easier for them to tell what they are finding it difficult, right? And again, if you ask what do you want, I don't know. I was troubling Kamna with a lot of questions through this last 1 week, saying, okay, how is this session going to be? What is to be covered? What is the intention of the session? Too many things. But then it's not that she will be able to tell also. She has only seen a lot of sessions so far. So it is also about me to adapt to the needs of this particular audience. And to this particular audience, I think you all just want to get this done with. So we'll go really, really quickly. All right. So it is about you have to solve that problem in that context. So I cannot take an engaging class in this session unless and until I'm able to figure out what's happening with all of you. Right. At this point of time, I can ask you, are you all here? Can you just type yes so that I know you are there? And at that time, I'll also drink water. Can I get a yes? Okay, thank you. I at least see few people, yes. So unless and until we do that interaction with the users, you will never be able to solve that problem by yourself. Right? Um, so, and then the third thing is you have to always try out. So that's where some of the tools that is there in the session title will come in handy. You will have to prototype your solutions and then do it, right? Okay. So what are the assumptions that we usually make before implementing any solution? Try. Like I'm right now, when I ask that question, who all are there? Can you type? I just assume most of you are in laptop so that it's easy for you to type, right? But most of you may be in attending this through a phone, and it's really difficult for you to navigate through all those buttons and come to the chat and actually type it, right? So there are so many assumptions that um, all of us assume. So whenever you have a solution, you have to ask what is the base assumption on which this solution is resting, right? So this is why is this relevant in a problem solving? Because while using all those tools, you come up with a solution. You will have to understand if the solution is going to work or not. So if the solution is, let's say, for example, your solution assumes that the students are going to read all the mails. No, they are not going to. They are not going to read all the mails that we send them or all the messages that we send them. Maybe Instagram might work, but not any other tool, right? So you have to list the assumptions when you have a solution. Now, how do you use AI here? Try and get the user perspective. So this is one prompt. I'll share it to Kamna so that she can send it across to all of you. So one prompt. I mean, you can also design your own prompt. This is something that usually works. I again tested it with Perplexity, Claude, and ChatGPT. So this is my solution. Now play the role of a student and then tell me whether this will work or not. Play the role of another type of student. You can also ask them to ask the tool to tell you what types of students are there and then play each one of them and how the solution will work or will not work for them, right? This is actually before testing out the tool, right? Okay. So now, how do you choose the right approach? So I was telling there are a lot of tools and it's not about just using the tool, but about understanding when the tool is to be used. So this is a typical 4 quadrant diagram. So there is known unknown in X and Y axis. One is problem, one is solution, right? So let's start with the green one. Problem. You know the problem, you know the solution. What should you do? Just go ahead and execute it, right? You know the problem really well. You don't know the solution. You need to understand why the problem exists. what will actually solve. So that's a place where you use some of the tools. We'll see what tools they are. Now we'll go to Discover. Discover is a place where probably you have some solutions, like how Senthil is writing that there are AI for everything. So we are deciding that AI is our solution. Now we are trying to do, okay, what problem can I solve using AI? Right. So that's another type of problem solution quadrant. Then there are places where you just don't know because your professor is, I mean, your HOD is telling, we need to do this better. We don't know what the problem is. We need to get better marks. We need to make our placements better. But we don't know what the problem is. Then how do we even find the solution? Now, all these four types of situations will happen in your life. So you can use different tools for each one of these situations. So let's see. Quadrant one is just execute. Problem is clear. Solution is there. We've seen that it works, at least in some corner somewhere. Then there is no problem solving. This is about implementing it. Right? You just know. You know that this is exactly the problem. If I am able to help my students in this way, it is going to help. You just do it. What do you need to have? You need to have probably a checklist so that people don't forget. You need to have a standard operating procedure so that people don't miss steps. Then you have procedures or policies or everything. So quadrant one, where the problem is known, the solution is known, is the easiest of all. This is an execution quadrant and there is no real problem solving here. The only problem solving is if you get some feedback which is not expected, then that becomes another problem that you solve. Right? Now, most often what happens is we think most of the things are in problem one because we know we've been there. We've been students, we've been teachers forever. We've seen multiple batches go through. So we think all the problems are in Q1s. We know the problem, we know the solution also. So we just have to execute some previous methods that worked, right? So this is a problem that most of us fall into. I am talking from my perspective also. I'm preparing tools that will help teachers have an engaging classroom. It works in certain set of teachers, and I'm trying to broad base it in another institute with a different set of teachers, and it just falls flat. And I just understand that it's got nothing to do with the teachers or the intent, just that my first sample had very enthusiastic teachers who were interested in using the tool. Right. So I think that I know the problem, I know the solution, but not always the case. So this is one common mistake. Although this is a place which is the easiest place, but unfortunately, there's very limited things which fall into this quadrant. The quadrant two is dig deeper. Any images that come to your mind when I say dig deeper? The iceberg image, where you see only the tip of the iceberg. The real problem lies deeper, right? So the problem, I mean, you know that there is something, but you don't have any idea what lies beneath it, right? So this is where you have the 5 Whys and root cause analysis. And then once you find all that, you will do PDSA cycles. PDSA is you plan a solution. Once you have a solution, you plan it, you design, you study the result, then you act on it. Right? So the 5 Why, root cause, all these tools will come in the quadrant two. So let's say you have a problem which is like submissions are dropping by 40%. What exactly would you do? Then these are the formal tools. We'll just brush through these tools so that you know you know how to use and what they are. So this is the standard problem solving zone, right? This is also like your 10,000 piece puzzle will mostly fall into it because you're like, okay, how am I going to solve it? What color am I looking for? Did I get all the corner pieces? Anybody puzzle enthusiast, you will know there are some standard ways of solving even those puzzles, right? So if you have clicked all those things, you should be able to solve the puzzle sooner than later. right? So how do you do the 5 why analysis? You have to keep asking why, right? At every stage, you get one answer, you ask why. Here, the only problem is if you're not in the right direction, direction is trying to get the problem to a circle of influence or control. You might go and say that, I mean, so I used to work in Wipro for around 27 years. I used to work in customer software in customer delivery. And our president used to tell that all the 5 why analysis will come in and say the customer didn't tell it correctly. That will be our final root cause analysis. We cannot do anything. If the customer didn't tell us properly, then there is another thing that, okay, we didn't ask them properly. That could be the real root cause. Not that the customer didn't tell it correctly, right? So it also depends on how many, maybe 5 whys, you might need a 6th why also for you to get the right answer. So let's say, so this is, it's a very simple tool. You can so in a real scenario, you might also want to see what kind of people problems are there. Then you look at that and say 5 whys in that. Then you look at processes. What are the processes involved? And then you do 5 whys in that. So I'm not going deeper into it, but because I want you all to look at that 5 whys and how, I mean, why it has to be done, what it has to be done, etc. For clearing the test in this particular area, this is enough. When you have to actually do it, you need to know a little bit more details. Okay, so what is a PDSA? You plan, you design and do the activity, then you study what happened, then you act on it. Right? So you anything. So you came up with a 5 whys, you came up with a problem, you came up with a solution. The solution is a human-centric design. I think we'll cover it now. And then you do a PDSA. So you do plan, do, study, and act. So it's a very simple, commonsensical thing, but then you cannot do it on a wrong quadrant problem. We are in quadrant 2, where the problem is not very, we know somewhat the problem, but the solution is unknown, right? So that's where we are. So the key is to run smaller cycles so that you get results faster. Okay, so the quadrant 3 is maybe we have solution, like how AI is a solution for everything. Oh, you should be able to solve it quicker now that there is AI. You should be able to solve it easier now that there are online learning tools. You should be able to solve it now that we have implemented this classroom tracking software, right? So you have a lot of solutions, but the results are not happening because probably the problems are not defined correctly. So this is a place where you're trying to understand if the problem is defined properly. Right. So this is again the place where you do, if you have heard something called design thinking or human-centric design, this is that area where you are actually trying to see what is the user trying to do? What is the user trying to achieve? What is my student trying to achieve by doing this? Are they here just for getting marks, just tick mark, or do they want to understand the subject because this is where their interest lies or this is where they want to make a career out of? Typically, it happens in probably undergraduation where the language teachers face this problem, right? Students study that just because they have to clear it. There's no interest, genuine interest there. Similarly, there are similar topics in engineering and other technical courses also where students are probably an area that they are deciding to drop from the third year, or they're not going to take it as an elective, right? So understand why the student is, what are they trying to achieve by attending this class, or whatever your problem statement is. Try and understand deeper into the human centric zone, right? What are they, what is the user trying to do here? Now the quadrant 4 is where you have to improve placement, but you don't know what the problem is. You don't know what the solution is. So this is where there has to be multiple types of, you are basically understanding different types of problems itself, and different types of solutions also has to come up. So one of the things to do is mind map or a brainstorming. Brainstorming, you can do it with AI or with another fellow colleague or a set of people, stakeholders, any level you can do brainstorming. There are formal ways to conduct a brainstorming where you write down everything that comes into a visual board, right? Ideally, a blackboard or a white chart. And you have to then next step you try and clarify how many of them believe in each one of thing and go. So there are formal methods of brainstorming. Mind maps, how many of you have used mind maps? Quick check to see if you're all there. Mind maps, anyone? Flow charts, anybody has used? Yes. So these are places. This is quadrant 4, where you have a very large objective, but you don't know what the problems are, what the solutions are. So these are the places where you try and figure out what problem to solve itself. Because unless and until you have a specific measurable problem, you cannot solve it. Right. So that's where you use a flowchart. You don't have to use it in quadrant 1 where you know the problem, you know the solution. You can't use it where you don't know the problem yet, but you have a solution. You cannot, it's not like RHS is equal to LHS will not happen in many of these cases. Mind map and brainstorming flowcharts are where you just either you're trying to understand what's happening now, that's where you'll use flowchart, or you're trying to see the overall picture like mind maps. You go thinking in one level, one aspect, one perspective, one point of view, and then you go deeper into it. So these are the things for quadrant 4. Okay, so the goal, if you are in this quadrant, is to go from Q4 to Q2 or Q3. Right? Either go to a place where you know the problem fully, or you go to a place where you know the solution fully, and then you iterate. Iterate is using PDSA. So what is mind map? I think I just covered it. So you have a central concept, then you branch out. Branch can be point of view. You can do it with people, I mean, different actors in the system. It depends on what kind of mind map you are trying to make. But then you always start with, I need to improve placement. That's your central concept. And then you say, okay, is there demand? Is there something that you can do about it? So maybe you won't expand that branch only. Others are getting placed, my kids are not. So what is it that we are trying to do? Okay, my kids, half of them are getting placed, half of them are not. So what's happening with the other half? Right? So this is how you will branch out your mind maps. What is it that the college can do? What is it that the students can do? Are we missing some important element? So these are the things that happens. What are the rules for any time when you're doing mind maps, flow, brainstorming, etc.? You just put everything in at that time. Don't filter anything, because sometimes some of the wildest ideas might become feasible when you have the entire picture, right? So don't start filtering. So don't self negate ideas saying, oh, no, that's not correct. No, don't do that. Right. So this you can use it for new initiatives when you need to figure out directions. You have a redesign of your curriculum. Right. For all these things, you can use this kind of tools. Flowchart is mapping what exists. All right. So how do you move between quadrants Q4 to Q3? Research and discover the real problem. So your problem is clear. So Q4 problem and solution are unclear. From there, you come to Q3 where the problem is clear. Then you can look at different solutions and then try out, iterate. Q3 to Q2, where you actually redefine your problems if the solution is not working, right? And then from Q2 to Q1, where you say that I know what the problem is, I know what the solution is. Then you will be able to just execute. So that's how the movement can happen. Okay, so these are some problems. Unless and until you're very clear about it, it's going to be confusing. So anyway, I'm going to send the slides across to you. You can see this later, but for now, just understand that If you don't go get the quadrant right, you may not solve the problem fully. Okay. So we'll just brush through. I mean, I think I covered some of the prompts before. So where can you use AI at this different stages, right? So we learned about defining the problem properly. We learned about how to frame it so that it's within the circle of control, so that you get results. Nothing motivates like results, right? Unless and until you get result, you will not feel like working again on that same problem or same solution or similar areas. So how do you get results using that? And then we learned what are the quadrants and what tools one should use. So now we are going to see where AI can help. Where is AI excelling at? It will fill in the blanks for you, right? If you are giving it a rough idea, it's going to fill in the blanks and ask you questions. What if it happens like this? Oh, did you consider this? All those kind of things. And if you give a role to AI will play that role really well. If you know what role you want AI to play, that's something we can really do well with AI. Right? Unless and until you have been using one tool and you have fed all your information into it, AI will not have the context. Even if you have fed all the information in that chat, it doesn't have the context, so it's not going to give you the exact right answer. So you will have to spend some time in each of your chats. Sometimes for some of the tools, after certain number of tokens, you will have to again give the context. Otherwise, it will not get the full thing. So mapping that to your context is your job, right? That's your job, even if AI takes everything. What is your role as the problem solver? You will have to use AI as a tool or give it a role, give it scenarios, everything. Okay. So where are we going to do? Problem definition is one thing. We saw that already. Then 5i analysis, there are tools. So in ChatGPT specifically, if you explore GPTs, you will be able to find PDSA tool, 5i tools. All these tools are available in ChatGPT. I want you to explore. So this is an area, you go to ChatGPT and the left pane, you will find something called Explore GPTs. And you search for these tools, you're going to get those tools there. Okay. So these are the prompts. So defining the problem, what I'm observing is this, what's actually happening, what might be causing it. So it is going to give you the root causes, and then you can figure out something from that. And then you can ask, what is the solution? This is about if you have a problem statement or you have a situation that you're going to tell, you can ask ChatGPT to work with you to come out with these things, right? And then using that, you can define the problem properly. When you define the problem properly, you're going to have specificity, you're going to have measurable, and you will not have a solution direction. That's how the problem has to be defined. The important thing here is you have a 5 why with ChatGPT. You can ask why after. You have to wait for my answer and then ask the next question. Otherwise, usually ChatGPT has it will just list out all the questions at one shot. That's not what you want. You want the tool to ask you questions on your answer, right? So that's something which you can do with with ChatGPT or any other AI tool. So this is for testing your assumptions. This is after you have a solution, right? So I am going to roll out this solution to my students. So tell me where it will fail. Be my student. In third, you are in rural northeast India, and the student is first generation learner without much access to this thing. You can set what your student context is and what your institution context is, and then you tell this is the solution. Will it work or not? What is What do you think is going to happen? So this you can do it as a dry run. You can test it out without you actually have to go to the ground and test it. Never going to be accurate, but then at least it gives you, it saves you from a lot of stupid things that we can do, right? Most of the time we end up doing a lot of stupid things because we are always in our own head. So this is about give me different stakeholder perspective. Anything that you're picking, you ask, okay, how is the university going to react to this? How are parents going to react to this? Because you're trying to solve a student problem, take it from all aspects. How is industry going to react to this? How are seniors going to react to this? How are fresh graduates, I mean, fresh into college, freshers going to react to this thing that I'm putting in as a solution, right? So ChatGPT can give you all those perspectives. It can give you mind map. It can get you started with mind map, after which you have to take it to a tool and do it. I really don't have a lot of suggestions for you. I have tried a lot of online tools. Nothing has clicked for me than writing in plain white paper, right? Where you have enough place to go, you have the freedom. Most of the online tools have actually restricted, and it's after a certain point of time you feel. I mean, it becomes too cumbersome. Of all the thing, Xmind has is one of the things that I keep going back to if I have to present it in a digital format somewhere. Otherwise, my mind maps are always in a chart paper where I'll write and then go in different direction. But you can get started as to what are the main branches of your mind map. So that you can ask with ChatGPT. I mean, with any AI tools help. Okay. So now, what can you do? You can if you had a problem from the first stage, you can look at that problem. The first thing to look is the problem a projective? Second thing, what kind of, do you have a solution? So you pick your quadrant, where are you? And then you see if your problem or solution, is it outside of your circle of control? If yes, bring it to your circle of control. And then you'd use the tools and get it done, right? So you can take some time and do it. I'm not going to force you to do because this is like towards the fag end of your day, but I would want you all to try it out. And then if you can find me in LinkedIn, ping me or write back to Future Skill Prime, and I'm sure they will send it back to me if you found it useful or if you didn't find it useful, right? So what all tools do you use? So this was about problem solving models, right? This class was about. So what are the quadrant? The quadrant one, execute, where your known problem, known solution. What do you use? Standard operating procedures, checklist, standard practices, policies, etc. Quadrant two is where you dig deeper, where you have a problem, but you don't have enough details of the problem to come up with a solution, right? So you use a lot of tools like 5i PDSA. 5i PDSA, all these things can be done on the problem and on the solution also. So you do it on the problem to get clarity, come up with a solution using human-centric design or design thinking, and then run it and iterate it using BDSA, right? Discover is where there seems to be a solution, but the solution is not working well. What mistake are we doing in identifying the problem? It's a wrong problem, right? So that's where you do a lot of user research, etc. And then the fourth quadrant, where we just want to, overall things have to become better. We don't know what the problem is. We don't know what the solution is. And then you start doing mind map and brainstorming. So that's what I had. So what we tried seeing today, how language shapes the way you define problems. How do you choose what kind of problems to solve? And remember that you're not solving the problem for you, you're solving it for somebody else. So unless and until you sit with them and you test it out with them, it's not going to work. Tools, choose the tools rightly, and then use AI wherever possible. So thank you so much. And I do have 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If there are any questions, any thoughts.
Great session, Smita. I think you can ask them some quizzes if you want. I mean, I know you've been asking questions throughout, but some more if possible.
Okay. So how do you define a problem? What is the best way to define a problem that can be solved? A solvable problem. What shouldn't be there? What should be there? Okay, let me give you clues. It should not have solution. So what should it have? Okay, the whole concept. Okay, yeah, in two quadrants there is design thinking and innovation coming in, but there are other things also. And I'll tell you one secret. This session is part of my PDSA, the Plan Do Study Act. So I usually have slides where there will be only pictures. It should be measurable. Thank you so much. Yeah, it should be measurable. Yes. Problem identification and validation. Yes, identification. We are talking about definition, right? Definition of a problem. It should be specific. I mean, the way you catch it is, are you using all students are like this? Always. Those are things that should not be there in a problem definition. It should be specific. Okay, smart. Yeah, this applies for goals, but it applies for even, yeah, at least the S&M definitely applies in problem definition also. Okay, so what are the four quadrants? What are the things in that? Known problem and known solution. What do you do? Yes, you just execute it. Correct. And execution, you don't get results, then you do PDSA, which is basically take the result and study, and then you replan and do, etc. If you don't know what the problem is, if you don't know what the solution is, what are the tools to use? Yeah, mind map. Correct. What if you have a solution, but you don't have a lot of details on the problem? You have a solution idea, or you want to use AI as the solution, or you want to use um, a new course, a new teaching methodology, but you don't have much details on the problem. What would you do? Nirmal, your answer? Observation. Correct. Oh, thank God. Folks, you made my day. Okay. What about when you don't have a lot of clarity on your solution? You know the problem to some extent, but you're not able to design a solution because you don't know a lot of details of your problem. So what do you do? Details of your problem. How do you dig deeper into a problem? I'm giving you clues. Dig deeper is 5 why. right? Yeah, 5 why is a way to go. The question is, if you know the problem to some extent, you're not able to come up with a solution because you don't have details of the problem. So how do you approach? You start with 5 whys, understand why something is happening, and then you create the solution. So that's that area. Requirement collection of the user. Yeah, understanding. Yeah, so here to a great extent, you kind of, yeah, interview all these things. The Q2 and Q3 quadrants are somewhat, they will overlap some of the tools because one is talking about solution which is unknown, one is talking about problem which is unknown. So the tools that are there can be used at both stages to get clarity of the problem and also to finalize the solution. Okay. Any questions you have or any thoughts? Anything that you learned newly? I wouldn't say learned. Um, any new insight into how you can solve any of your problems at work? Or at least find problems to solve? No questions mean everyone has understood everything.
Yes, I think you were very engaging throughout the session, and I was also almost glued to your session. So, thank you so much. Guys, last 2 minutes if you want to ask any questions. Otherwise, I will let Smita go because it's very difficult to catch the attention of faculty members after, as they said, a long day.
Yeah,
We
very
understand,
true.
of course, we understand that you guys have had a long day and we do appreciate your joining. And thanks to Smita, it was a very engaging session full of stories and anecdotes.
I have put my LinkedIn profile. If any of you want to connect with me, probably that's the place you can
And Smita, where
connect,
can
ask
I
questions.
attend your other sessions where there are only pictures?
Yeah, that's my usual this one. So I was like, as I was going through this for this session when I was preparing, I was in my
Uh-huh.
usual way of putting pictures, and then I'm like, I'm assuming something here.
Yes.
I like pictures that, I mean, it helps me keep concepts. Whereas probably that's not the way. What am I assuming? And I, I thought this time I'm not going to use even one picture. Let me see what happens.
On a serious note, do let us know. I think there is a
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
Can you explain AI bot and teachers? Replacement. What's your opinion? Okay. Do you think an AI bot can replace you? Tell me. I mean, I'm going to flip the question to you. Why it cannot replace you? Because in this question itself, there is an answer, right? Do you think it can replace? Senthil? Never. Okay. Why? Now let's see why. 5 whys. Why? What are you doing that an AI bot cannot do? Social interaction. Okay. In a class, is that what you're saying? Or is it about understanding the context of the student? Yeah. And okay. A class structure. Yeah. We never know. Maybe a digital twin can become a teacher who's teaching a set of students. So it can out of the building. What does that mean? No machine can do what human do. That's not correct to me. A lot of machines are able to do what humans are doing. There are some things that humans are doing, which it's like, who are you? Okay. Field work. Field work is easy, no, Yogesh? Surveys, we can run out survey and all. Discipline manner, yeah. So there are some things that are coming up now. So the very fundamental of a human being, right? The way you interact, those things an AI cannot teach you. And without that, you just think of the most interesting thing that has happened in class for you, right? There will be an emotion attached to it. AI cannot bring that emotion. And without that emotion, things won't stay. So, this is my take on why AI will not replace teachers, because people will not be able to retain content and apply because there are no emotions in the entire uh, learning or that engagement and experience. Anything that I remember is where there was some joke that was cracked, or there was something that happened in the class. All those classes, I'll remember it properly. So if you're able to make every class like with some emotions coming out, that and all AI cannot do, right? Means bot won't. Which manner we are talking? Correct. Yeah, I think you're somewhere. I mean, when if I say emotions and feelings, does that um, video or reels like that? But patience is missing. So we have to also do 30 seconds things, Senthil, right? We have to also create there's this concept of second screen that all movies and Netflix is coming up with. So we should also be like, okay, every 30 seconds I'll tell something new that the people have to come back here to. 30 seconds is too much, at least 5 minutes. AI needs data, teachers can adjust on the fly. Yeah, we're talking about very experienced teachers. Yeah, that is correct. Maybe AI can do some part of what teachers can do, but AI cannot do everything that the teacher is doing.
Basically, we say
Okay.
that AI will complement teachers in their work. They cannot
Yeah.
replace teachers.
Yeah.
Teachers can use AI to enhance their work and enhance
That's
their
true.
engagement.
That's true. The way we know AI today, right?
Yeah,
I'm
the way
scared to
we
make
know,
any of
yes.
these
Yes,
statements
that's true. That's true. I mean, as of now, as of today.
as of now. Yeah.
Right. So I
Okay.
think if there are no more questions, I think I'll just take a couple of minutes. If there is any problem in accessing the course, then you please take a screenshot and write an email to support@futureskillsprime.in, and you can mark me in copy, and I'll follow up with the team to get your problem resolved. So I think we've just been talking about problem solving. So this is a very simple approach. You just take a screenshot, put it in the mail, and write to Future Skills. I'm just typing it here. You can write with a screenshot to support at futureskillsprime.in and copy me, Kamna at nascom.in. So I think with that
Okay.
we'll close. Thank you,
Thank you.
Smita. Thank you for
Thank you so
that.
much.
Thank you
Yeah.
all the
Thank
faculty
you.
members for attending. Thank you.
Thank you.